in the second chapter of Acts, looking at the significance of Pentecost. Joining me now on the program from Laidlaw College, Dr. Phillip Porter. Kia ora, good morning. Thanks for your time today.
Kia ora, Andrew. Great to be with you guys.
Now, when it comes to Pentecost, talk to us about the significance of it. It was the birth of the church, and some pretty unusual things went down in the second chapter of Acts back in the day.
They did. It was the birthday of the church, as you say, and I think one of the things about Pentecost is that it was a time when it was an all-in festival, and it was a time when slaves and free men and women, rich and poor, even foreigners were allowed to all come and to participate. And so everybody was there. And I think it was the point in a sense in which the Spirit was democratized, in a sense that it was poured out on everyone. And God was signaling just the kind of community that the church was going to be, where people were included because of the gift of the Spirit to them. And so it was the birthday of the church. It was also the birth of the Christian mission. And I think that's really important. And it was also at the moment that confirmed for the disciples just where Jesus was, because as it says in Acts 2, it's because Christ was exalted to the right hand of the Father and had received the Spirit, and that he was able to pour out the Spirit on the church. And so for the disciples, it was an exciting moment because suddenly they realized exactly where Jesus was. He was at the right hand of God. And from there, the Spirit had been given. So it was a very exciting moment for them, and it remains a very exciting day to remember and participate in a sense, for us.
Wonderful kickstart to the church growth model as well. I think they started the day with about 120 members and ended the day with 3,120 members, and then people added daily to the church since then. Certainly quite a dramatic start to the church.
That's right. And I think in our own time, the church is gifted with a great task, and it's a task that really we cannot carry out in our own strength and ability. The church has no power and no authority to call people to Christ, except by the presence of the Spirit. And so I guess one of the reasons to remember and to celebrate Pentecost is to remind ourselves that we're not alone in this mission. It's not that God has given us to do this work and abandoned us, but actually we do it in the power of the Spirit, and because of that we can expect to see fruit just as they did back then.
I mean, that was part of what drew people to the message, that here's a bunch of people that weren't necessarily articulate orators or theologians, but by the power of the Spirit, possibly one of the best sermons they'd ever heard, certainly a compelling transformational change evident there. Philip, just wanting to talk about I suppose the different ways of doing this, because of course since the birth of the church has grown. There's different traditions, different denominations. Some, of course, the Pentecostal churches, they put Pentecost on the name of their movement, but there's different ways of reflecting what church means, and people would have celebrated Pentecost Sunday in different ways in the weekend.
Yes, I'm sure that's right, Andrew, and I don't think there is any one way to celebrate, but I think too, it's a little bit like Christmas and Easter. We're celebrating things that are true all year round for all of the church. We just take time to remember them and to give prominence to them, and I don't think it matters quite how Pentecost is celebrated, but I think to make room in a time when the church is gathered to honor the Spirit, to express our reliance and dependence upon the Spirit and our desire for him to be present and moving among us. That's a very powerful thing to do, and I don't think we ever do that without the Spirit taking up that opportunity just to move afresh and to equip us afresh for the life that he's called us to. So I think the form in which it is celebrated is not so important. What is important is that we take time to remind ourselves as much as to speak to God about the fact that we are a people of the Spirit and are totally reliant on his presence among us.
You mentioned Easter and Christmas, and you know there's various trappings and bolt-ons that have happened over the years for those ceremonies. Perhaps Pentecost not given as much room in that, particularly, I suppose, outside of the church community, not as much recognition given of something which is a very significant point, not just in church history, but in global history.
I think that's right. We don't get a public holiday for Pentecost, which is
We get the day off on Sunday, I suppose, which is but yeah, exactly, yeah.
I think that's right, and you're right to highlight this. This is a very significant moment in world history. This was the beginning of a mission that quite literally has gone on to touch every corner of the world, including New Zealand, right down here in the bottom of the world. Who would have thought, Andrew, back then, that this tiny little group of people in the middle of the world, that one day that movement would spread out to touch someone such as people such as ourselves in the far corners of the earth. But that's the power of the Spirit, and that is the Spirit at work. And that's what we celebrate on Pentecost is the Spirit at work in the world as well as in the church. So it is a very powerful moment that we're remembering for both the world and the church.
And of course, like Jesus isn't just for Christmas, the Holy Spirit isn't just for Pentecost Sunday. This is something that we celebrate every day and every year as the people of God in Aotearoa, New Zealand and around the world. Well, Phillip, thank you so much for the work that you do. Thanks for taking the time to chat with us today.
It's great to have the conversation. Thank you, Andrew.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.